talking all these gubernatorial candidates. I think this will be the most we've had in the week. We spoke with Malin on yesterday in Wisconsin. Thursday, we're going to talk to Andrew Gillum in Florida. And this morning, we're talking to my friend, Ben Jealous, who is running for governor of Maryland. Morning, brother. How you feel?
Good, man. It's good to hear your voice, Mark.
Good to hear you as well. How's the campaign going?
Campaign's going well. We hired a bunch of organizers across the state. We're preparing to open up offices, and we feel good about it. It's in a weird way you take flattery in a race like this from being hit with weeks upon weeks of attack ads. What that means is that this governor knows that it's very much the case that he could lose. And so he has unleashed a barrage of insulting, untrue, nasty, negative attack ads, and in the process bared his soul as a politician and shown the people who he really is. I mean, it's we are committed to running a positive campaign, hiring organizers, turning out every last voter. His prayer is to suppress the vote through negative advertising. That's all that it ever achieves. And so we are living through that moment, but we take heart. We organize, we'll turn out the vote, and we will win.
So these attack ads are on television in Maryland?
Yeah. And it's just, I mean, it's the typical stuff. I mean, on the other side of these ads, which are being purchased by the Republican Governors Association, and ultimately, these associations work very, very closely with the campaigns. I mean, they're just, Anyways, without getting too much into that, on the other side of it are large checks from the pharmaceutical industry and the Koch brothers, and it's what we kind of expected. I mean, given my history of fighting the Koch brothers at every turn, given the fact that I put on the table the fact that we need to move to state-based Medicare for all and make sure everybody in Maryland is covered, and most importantly, for those who have coverage, we get the costs under control. And given that the pharmaceutical companies are literally overcharging every person in our state on every pill relative to what you would pay in a country like Canada or France, this is what we're dealing with. But that's what happens when you decide to fight for working people, and you make it clear that the basic kitchen table crises that are facing each of our families, high health care costs, underfunded schools, and the economy that's dead last in our region, you end up in the type of situation that we're in now, which is we're being attacked from every corner with these ads, but we're out there on the street, we're out there in the churches, we're out there in the neighborhoods, knocking on doors and talking to people about how we can finally fully fund our schools, get healthcare costs under control, and make sure everybody's covered, end the student debt crisis, and frankly pay for it by ending mass incarceration. And that continues to go very well. When we're talking to the people, putting out a positive vision for the state, taking the time to explain to each of them how it could work, things are going very, very well.
So let me ask you this, Ben, just to get some more context here. States are different in terms of how you approach them. In Maryland, what wins? Is it an air campaign, meaning ads, more so than a ground game, or is it a ground game versus an air campaign? What is the winning strategy in a state like Maryland?
Well, see, what you're running into right here, what you're seeing right here is that for our state, it depends on which party you're in. If you're a Republican, you need low voter turnout. That's how he got in office. The Republicans have never gotten more than 900,000 The Republicans have never gotten more than 900,000 votes for their candidate in our state. If you're a Democrat, it's about turning out the votes. We've, in the past, have had even more than 1 million voters vote for our candidate. That's what happened in 2010. The way that you turn out the vote, as you know, is you present a positive vision and you organize and you push out voters, you knock on their doors, you get their names, you go back, you remind them to vote, you show up with a van if need be. The way that you suppress the vote, the only legal way to suppress the vote, is through months of negative advertising. And so what they're hoping for there is that it just so disgusts people with the process that they decide not to engage. And so that's why we're out there on the doors and we're in the churches, very positive vision, encouraging people to stay encouraged and to encourage their family and their friends to stay encouraged. Because if they turn out to vote, we win. And we will ultimately get back up on the air with positive messages. But this is an incumbent governor who had no challenger in his primary. So he has almost unlimited money for this campaign, whereas we had to come, as you know, through an 8-way race. And so now we're in a place where we have to refuel as far as funding the campaign.
Right.
But there's still plenty of time for us to get out our positive message. And in the meantime, we're on the doors. We're in the churches. We're hiring teams of organizers to organize volunteers across the state. And, we're staying encouraged. But it's something, man, to watch the Republican Party do what the Republican Party does when they're scared.
Yeah, and obviously they're desperate. I mean, they're desperate in doing what they're doing. Ben Jealous with us, folks, of Ben, who is actually running for governor in Maryland, and we support our brother. I hope you all do as well. I understand, too, that you all have picked up some endorsements.
Yeah, man.
Talk to us about those.
Well, today, Congressman Anthony Brown is going to endorse my campaign. He, of course, is the last Democrat to run for governor in our state. He's gone on to become a very distinguished congressman in a very short period of time. And he represents most of Prince George's County. And so it means a whole lot to have his support. There'll be a dozen other leaders from the county endorsing him with me. And what we're doing to get our message out there is kind of staging these endorsements in waves across the state. Today, this is the big endorsement of the day. He joins, Mayor Kathy Pugh and Elijah Cummings and dozens upon dozens of Democrats across the state, and just very, very proud to have Congressman Brown's support.
That is an important endorsement. There was another one, the Black Economic Alliance.
Yeah, and this is their first round of endorsements, and it really gives me heart to see very successful Black business people coming together across the country to really put out a vision for how we do better as far as wages, raising the minimum wage to $15 per hour, and also as far as wealth creation. And that's what I love about business people in our community, is that they tend to be grounded and connected, and therefore willing to frankly have more courage than, say, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and just admit the obvious, which is if we all do better, we all do better. If we expand the base of our economy, the top will rise as well, because workers will have more money in their pockets, they'll spend more money, and businesses will make more money. And so very, very heartening to have a group of business people from our community step forward, invest heavily in helping progressive candidates win, and be very clear that we need to get back to a vision of this economy that's about expanding the pie for everyone, and proud to have their support as well.
You were on Ben Ellsworth's folks 20 minutes past the hour. You were on MSNBC yesterday,
Yeah.
discussing the Omarosa controversy, but also discussing, really how we can't get too distracted. You're running in a state, a lot of what people are facing these days comes down to state leadership does it. I think it's important we continue to press that case, right?
Oh, wow. I mean, absolutely. Every moment that we spend talking about the president's latest tweet is a moment that we're not talking about what really matters to our families. And making sure that we fully fund our schools, making sure everybody has health care, we get costs under control, making sure that we end mass incarceration, making sure that we, frankly, make public higher education the bargain that it was for the baby boomers and stop this mess that we've left to the millennials. And but here's just to kind of decode: the laws are being passed in the states these days, not in Congress. Congress, on average, recently has averaged less than 250 laws per 2-year cycle. The do-nothing Congress, those of us who were taught civics learned about, 1947-48, was called the do-nothing Congress by, I believe, President Truman, because they said, because he was outraged that they had passed less than 1,000 bills. But the new normal is a quarter of that. But where laws are getting passed are in our states. And we have to take that very seriously. Because these are not just, these are civil rights laws, anti-civil rights laws. These are attacks on public education. These are attacks on working people. And the states, 2/3 of them are controlled by Republican governors who 201. Even, nice guy, not nice guy, nice gal, not nice gal, push the Koch brothers' agenda. And that's what we're dealing with in our state. But this next cycle in Maryland, the next governor, because our judges on our highest court, our state Supreme Court, the Maryland Court of Appeals, have to retire at 70. We'll appoint 5 out of 7 judges on our state Supreme Court. I mean, think about that. The U.S. Supreme Court falls into Republican hands. And God forbid our governor is re-elected, our state Supreme Court would as well. The next governor is going to be in charge of redistricting. That's drawing the lines for congressional representation. It's critical to taking back the U.S. House that Democrats control more states. But if Republicans do, they'll have their way with that. And in our state, we have a once-in-a-generation opportunity to get school funding right. We revisit it about once every 15 or so years. That's on the table right now. So it's very, very high stakes. And I think what we have to understand as progressives and as people who want to see government fix problems for people is that the front line has moved from Congress to the states. And that's why it's so important. Who is our governor? That we control our state houses and our state senates. Here we have an opportunity to hold on to our Democratic supermajority in the state Senate. We have an opportunity to appoint the overwhelming majority of judges in the state. And all that comes down to, frankly, really turning out voters in this gubernatorial election. And that's why we're hiring so many organizers across the state.
Also, Ben, I'm noticing some tweets overnight from you. Now, tell us about what this thing going on with White Marsh Mall in Maryland. Talk to us about that.
We in our state have to really wrestle with the fact that we have a hate problem. And we've got to deal with it. And these flyers depicting young black men as apes on the buses going into White Marsh. Frankly, right after we had a big, a well-publicized, if not very big, white supremacist gathering in the nation's capital. What it reminds us, though, right, is that not far from White Marsh, a young man boarded a bus to New York City last year from Maryland. from Towson to go hunt a black man in the streets of New York City and kill him with a sword. Last year we had a young black man who had just been commissioned as an officer, just graduated from his ROTC program, just a few days of graduating from college. Stabbed with a knife by a student with white supremacist beliefs in College Park, right on the campus of our greatest public university. A student who was killed was a student from Bowie State who was over visiting friends. And we've had a series of hate incidents at schools and high schools across the state, including the ones right down the street from where I live. And so we have to, as a state, it's one thing. I think it's easy for anybody to get in a soapbox and condemn a bunch of white supremacists gathering in D.C. But we have to admit that we've got a problem in our state. We've got to do a better job of raising our young people. We've got to do a better job of creating strong cultures in our schools of respect and helping young people, frankly, unlearn what their parents may be teaching them at home. And we have to have a governor who stands up to Donald Trump every day. Not just kind of quietly here or there pushing back a little, but who provides a very different vision for who we are as a state, who we can be, and makes it clear to the young people of our state that all of us have a right to be here, and all of us are stronger when we have each other's backs, when we invest in each other, when we believe in each other's equality, and we act on it. And that's what I teach my kids. As they struggle with, frankly, with playgrounds during recess that have become more hostile since Donald Trump has come in office, and it's part of what fueled in this race for governor. We have a generation of young people who rising in this country who were the least hateful generation we had seen, and Donald Trump has really started to change that in ways that may feel familiar to those of us who are older, but we should be absolutely impatient about that and pushing back, because we can still, produce the least hateful generation in the country, but it's going to take real leadership from those of us who know the price that will be paid if we don't.
These flyers, folks, and I retweeted Ben's tweet. A flyer comparing Baltimore bus riders to apes and encouraging the cutting of what is called the ghetto bus line to White Marsh Mall drew boycott threats online. This is from the Baltimore Sun. Who produced these flyers?
It's unclear. I mean,
okay.
At the end of the day, racists are cowards, and we saw it this weekend, right?
We sure did.
Talk. Less than 2 dozen of them show up. So, yeah.
Yeah. Folks, Ben Jealous is doing it in Maryland. He's running for governor. We support him. We hope you will support him as well. Get behind his campaign. As he said, he's hiring folks. That means Ben still needs some money. BenJealous.com, folks. We invite you to give and to give generously. Right, Ben?
Absolutely, man. As we say in the NAACP, which you and I were both raised, this is about your wealth, your work, and your wisdom. We need folks to sign up to volunteer at benjealous.com. Sign up and give, please. If you've given before, give again. This is a people's campaign. 99.9% of our contributions come from regular individuals. The other 0.1% of 1% tend to come from small businesses and unions. But this campaign will rise or fall based on the people deciding to support it. And so far, we've been rising, and we need to keep that going.
Indeed, indeed. My brother, thank you as always. We're going to keep having you on leading up to the election. And as promised, I'm going to head down there and do a little campaigning for you myself.
Appreciate you.
As I said, I know you heard me say I'm featuring all these gubernatorial candidates, folks. We can make some serious noise in 2018. Stacey Abrams, Malin Mitchell, Andrew Gillum. We can make a real difference. Paulette Jordan, who's our Native American sister running out in Idaho. So we wish them all well. BenJealous.com. Ben, thank you, man.
Thank you, Mark.
And give my love to the family, okay?
All right, man.
All right. Take care now. Folks, we will take a break. We'll be right back. Michael Steele is going to join us now. Sirius XM Progress 127, Resistance Radio. Get woke, get ready for impeachment. This is MIP.
Old pirates, yes, they rob I, sold I to the merchant ships.